You're listening to Business Marketing Show episode number 5. You can find us at businessmarketingshow.com.
Welcome to the Business Marketing Show. I'm your host, Brendan Tully, here with my co-host, Ed K. Smith, where we talk about all things doing business online.
Hello, Brendan. Hello, everyone.
Hello, happy Friday, Ed.
Happy Friday. We love Fridays, as do most people. But we love this subject as well, hence the reason we're doing the podcast. And it is one of your favourite subjects, Brendan, also one of my favourite subjects.
I have a lot to say.
Yes. It's on the subject of
SEO.
SEO. And what does SEO stand for? We have too many acronyms in the web marketing industry.
Search engine optimization.
Yes. Okay. So now we'll explain actually what search engine optimization is, because even that is a little bit vague. What is search engine optimization, Brendan?
Okay. So for me, SEO is the process of getting more traffic and better quality traffic from the search engines, unpaid traffic or the free traffic.
Organic is another thing that gets
organic
called.
Traffic. Yes, a lot of people think it's ranking number one. I don't like that description because that's not really a good explanation of what SEO is, because there's two parts to getting traffic from the search engines. One is actually getting ranked, so actually appearing in the search results, and the other one is having people actually click on your website when it does appear. So
yes,
ranking number one is useless if you're ranking for the wrong keywords and if nobody clicks on your website in the search results. So that's why I think everyone, particularly the more traditional business owner, has in their mindset, I need to be number one, but that's kind of a limited view of how SEO and the search engines work. So we do a lot of things with clients that don't necessarily rank them higher, but will get them better quality traffic or get them more traffic from the existing ranking positions, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So as an example, you could be, a business could be positioned at number one for whatever the keyword term is, and there could be someone in position number 2 or number 3, and potentially the person in number 2 or number 3 spot may get just as much traffic as the person in number 1 if they have what is being displayed to the searcher more effectively written. It's like it's a more compelling reason for them to click on that particular listing, which is all tied in with what we'll probably be talking about in terms of title tags and meta tags or meta description tags. So it is a case of making sure you've got your marketing and your communication set up correctly, so when people do see it, that they're going to want to click on it more than the other person's.
Spot on. So what should we talk about? Should we talk about 5 key things people should be aware of when it comes to SEO?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about the first one, that where your website ranks on your computer or your device doesn't necessarily mean that that's the same position where your website is ranking for someone else in another location or on another PC. So a lot of people Google their own business name, and because they click on it a lot, Google has what's called personalized search, where if you search for the same thing over and over again and click on the same websites, that website will suddenly start to appear as number 1 on your computer. So a lot of people aren't aware of personalized search, where the results are personalized to your activity or your history or your location or even your device.
And they think they're number 1 on Google, but they're actually not. They're number 10 or 20 or something. So yeah, I have had that happen with clients a lot. So it is a very important issue to be aware of. You need to clear the history in your browser, in your cache, or ask a friend who maybe is in another location to do a search to see what they're seeing. But yeah, you just need to make sure you're getting the right feedback.
Yep. And also another part of that is different devices. The search results look different on different devices. So, we talk about 3 main categories of devices. So we've got PCs, laptops, then we've got tablets, and then we've got smartphones. And if you have all those devices, go and Google the same thing on all three of them, and you'll see the search results look completely different. And particularly on smartphones, if it's a competitive term that you're searching or that you want to be ranked for, do a search, and on most phones, everything that appears above the fold, which is the part of the page that appears before you have to scroll, everything that appears above the fold is usually AdWords search results. So I say to our clients that, for me, if you're going to do SEO, you absolutely should be doing AdWords in some capacity as well, even if it's just against your own business name or similar search terms to your business name. What do you think about that, Ed?
Absolutely, yeah. So it does. They've got a much smaller amount of space that they can use on a smartphone to display the results. And you have to keep one thing in mind. Google is a company that is in this business to make money. And the only place they make money from is from their paid advertising. They do not make their money from the organic or natural search listings. So they're always going to give preference when there's a smaller amount of space to the items that will make them money and get clicked on. So that's the Google AdWords stuff, as Brendan said. So always recommended to have at least a mixture of the two to at least test what is working more effectively.
Yeah. The other thing as well, the search results, the algorithm changes very often. So if you're relying, like I had a client that was relying solely on organic or SEO traffic for all of their business, and they were doing about $1 million a year. And they had some SEO done many years ago that was not necessarily that legitimate, or was a little bit dodgy, and there was a Google algorithm change, and suddenly they disappeared from the search results entirely. So as a strategy, you shouldn't really just be relying on SEO traffic. You definitely should have at least one or two other traffic sources. And I'd suggest AdWords, some other form of paid traffic if that's applicable, and definitely email marketing, I think. So
definitely
at a minimum.
So just going back quickly to the term Google algorithm, because I know when I talk to clients, a lot of people don't really understand what that is. So can you give an explanation of what the Google algorithm is?
The way I describe it and the way I explain it in the workshops is that there are about 200 different factors that go into the ranking, or that go into Google deciding who ranks where. Mm-hmm. So I guess those factors are broadly defined as, or broadly called, the algorithm or ranking algorithm. So That's what I mean when I say algorithm.
Okay, so they piece all that stuff together, and then they go, right, based on all this information, we think this website, based on that keyword term, should be listed here. Could be position 1, could be position 10. So It's a whole combination of factors that determine that particular ranking. It's not just whether you have the right title tag or the right meta description tag, or you have a link from another website. There's a whole combination of things. Cool.
Yeah. So I chunked them down. When I explain stuff in our workshop, I chunked them down into three main components. So for me, the ranking factors are broken down into keywords and keyword relevancy. So, what's relevant to your website purpose or what you're looking to achieve. And then you absolutely need content associated with those keywords. So you really cannot rank for a keyword that you don't have content for on your website. And you really should have, for each keyword you want to rank for, you really need a page of content on your website, and it needs to be high quality content. And generally speaking, the longer the better. So we have clients so we have a range of clients, and the clients who have deeper content, and what I mean by that is pages with 1,000 to 2,000 words of good quality content. It's not just rubbish. They'll generally rank higher than clients with very thin content that might have a paragraph or two on each page. So having the right keywords and having content related to it. Then you have on-page SEO factors, which are all about the way that code is set up on your website, like you've mentioned, the page titles and meta descriptions. Even the ability for Google to be able to see your website, index your website. That would be the second one. And then you've got off-page ranking factors. So broadly speaking, Google is like a popularity machine. The more websites that link to your website, the more popular you are. Therefore, Google will probably rank you higher if you've got more backlinks. More backlinks.
Yeah.
And And the more popular the website's linking to you, the more backlink juice they transfer across.
Yeah, so it is also a case of being aware of where those backlinks are coming from, that they're coming from a reputable website, not just something that we would classify as a link farm or a site purely set up just to try and actually get link advantages or link juice from. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of what you can control as a small business owner, it's pretty simple to write content. Like from a DIY perspective, if you don't have the content you want to rank for, you're just not going to rank. A lot of small business owners in particular get really obsessed with getting more links to their website, and they ignore the content element and some of the easy on-page optimization things. So I would say if you're a small business owner looking to DIY, unless you have good quality, thick content on the website and you've taken care of some of the basic on-page SEO, thinking about backlinks is probably a waste of time.
I mean, one of the things I always recommend to our clients is maybe try and remove yourself a little bit from getting too concerned about what Google needs and think about what your customer needs. Because if you're pleasing one, typically you're pleasing the other. So if you're providing lots of excellent quality, valuable content to your visitor, then they're going to start sharing that content potentially through social media. Google's going to notice that there's more traffic going to these sites, and you'll naturally pick up a better ranking based on that, because you are doing what Google is technically wanting, to provide a good user experience and the best possible for people who are searching. So I think people get a little bit too carried away with Google, and they should be thinking more customer.
Yeah, totally agree. And we both see that in the workshops where they ask questions about keywords and what keywords should I have on my page, which is really that sort of keyword, or that thinking where you can fill a page full of keywords is 10 years. 10 years ago you could do that, but today that doesn't work. Google's a lot smarter. It can detect natural language. So really, like you said, writing for your customers and not Google is the way to go. And Google is trying to be like a person, right? It's trying to, deliver the most relevant search results. So it's trying to mimic a human, I guess. You could say that. As
much as possible. So what's the next? What point are we up to, Brendan?
Well, I think we're up to point 3. So
point 3, yes, we are.
Personalized search, the algorithm and the 200 factors that go into ranking. So point 3, I guess there are some things that you can DIY. So should we talk about page titles and meta descriptions?
Absolutely.
So how do we explain this? So the page title and the meta description are hidden code fields on your website that you don't actually see when you go to a web page, but they are used to determine how you appear in the Google search results or any search results, and they strongly impact where or what keywords you rank for, and sometimes where you rank as well. Would that be fair?
Yep, that would be fair. And it is what people are physically seeing in the search results from Google or from Bing or other search engines. It's what they're physically seeing on the search result page, or the SERPs, as search engine result pages. So they will see, typically in the top, they'll see a dark blue headline or a title, so that's the title tag. And then below that, there's usually the URL, and then the web address, and then there is the meta description tag. So the meta description is the actual information provided by yourself on every page for what that actual page of your website is about. So, you can control all those aspects.
Yeah. So if you have a modern CMS, each page will have, when you go in and edit each page, it probably has a section called SEO, or it might just say page title and meta description, and you should be able to independently edit that away from all the other content. So the page title, having some keywords in the page title is important, because that's going to affect how you rank. For the meta description, writing it in a kind of salesy manner. The goal of the meta description is to get someone to click on the search result when it does actually appear. So writing that well, and with our clients, I write their meta descriptions in a similar way to how I'd write an AdWords ad, because, as you know, Ed, small tweaks in the AdWords ad can double the performance. So the same with the meta description, we try and write them as best as possible from a sales and enticing a click perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. So you need to make sure that it has some type of call to action if possible, or it needs to be benefit oriented. You just need to think in terms of, if I was the visitor sitting on the other side of this screen doing that search, what would entice me to click on this link as opposed to the other 10 links that are on the page? And it's not going to be just because you're number one. Now, typically a lot of people who are number one, they'll just get clicked on purely based on the fact that they're number one, but it doesn't actually mean that it's going to convert any better than some of the other listings, particularly if they haven't matched their message correctly to what the person is searching for.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the tricks that we use, we put the telephone, particularly for the homepage meta description, we'll often put the telephone number in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, particularly on a mobile device, that can help a lot because people can get a telephone number for you without even having to go to the website. So
that is gold, Brendan. That is a good tip because not many people do that.
Nope.
So yeah, that's a good idea. Actually, funnily enough, I've just done a search while we're talking on Google for some SEO companies. I won't mention who this one is because it's not us. And they actually have their phone number in the title tag of their page and in the meta description. So yeah, that's a very good tip.
Yeah, we do that for a lot of our medical clients, and from what the data we can see, it works well. The other one, so not all, but some of our medical clients have a book online capability, so you can book an appointment 24/7. So we put that in the meta description as well, because for me, all things being equal, if I can, if I'm searching for some sort of, like a dentist, for example, at 8 p.m. at night, and I can book online there and then, all things being equal, that dentist is likely going to get the booking over someone I have to, call the next day and follow up, and, the old school offline method, so to speak. So
yeah, very true. The thing is, of course, if you can give people options, if you can have that and the phone number, you're going to get different people who want to do different things. So you sort of cover the best of both worlds. So yeah, that's very, very cool.
Yeah, we'll have some info in the show notes on, I guess, some diagrams explaining it. And there's also a search you can do in Google where it will bring up a result or bring up the results showing all the pages in your website. So you can actually see what the meta descriptions and page titles are now. So you can get a good feel for where you're at. And if they're no good, it's a pretty simple process of just going through and fixing them all up. Like for us, for some clients, just going through and setting the page title and meta descriptions can double the traffic. Often it gets them to a number one ranking. For some e-commerce clients, it's an easy way to double sales because, particularly on the products, for an e-commerce client, classic example is the product pages don't have a page title and meta description set. So, there's so many wins around it. It's absolute no-brainer, and it is it is DIY to a certain extent.
Yeah, I'm actually feeling really guilty right now, Brendan, because I have been meaning to go and redo all of my title tags and meta description tags on my site and tweak them and do things. I've just been too damn busy, so I haven't done it. But it is a good point, and I don't have phone numbers in some of my areas. So I've done that for clients, but not for me. So that's very, very good. What's a quick way for people to just have a look to see all of the pages from their website that are listed in Google?
Yep. So if they do the search, so if they type it into the search box site, so SITE, and then a colon, which is the two dots on top of each other, and then their domain name. So site, colon, domain name with no spaces. That'll bring up the list of all the pages that Google can see on the website and all the page titles and meta descriptions.
Yep.
The other thing is, if that doesn't bring back any pages, or if you have 20 pages on your website and only one page shows up, then there is some other issue where Google can't actually see your website. So that's a separate SEO problem entirely. But for me, like one of the first things we do when we do SEO for clients is do that search, because we see the quick wins immediately. Like if Google only sees your homepage and none of the other 20 pages, simply fixing that alone is going to double the traffic, easy win.
Yeah, we had that happen just recently from a client that had a website built in WordPress, and we were starting to do some AdWords and SEO work for them. And the first thing we did was what you were saying. We did the site check and only discovered that it was only their homepage that was listed and nothing else. And then we went into the WordPress site that had been up and running, was live for about 7 months. only to discover within WordPress the little box that was checked, hide from search engines, was never unchecked when the site was made live from the developer. So for 7 months, they had their site basically hidden to the search engines. They were a little bit annoyed, I must say. But anyway, we sorted that out very quickly, and then things started getting back on track. But it's sometimes the simplest little thing that can make huge impacts to your business, both good or bad. So you have to keep on top of it.
Yeah. Hundreds of, like we said, there's like over 200 factors that go into ranking. So those simple little things can be the difference between number one and not appearing at all.
Yeah, very good. Excellent. So what's the next one?
Next. So increasing the click-through rate and just general must-have Google Places and Google+.
Okay, yes, agree. So first of all, what is click-through rate?
So click-through rate is the percentage of people who see your listing or ad or whatever it is and click through on it. So if the click-through is CTR or click-through rate is 5%, 5% of the people who saw your listing or ad or website click through and went through to it.
Fantastic. And that's only part of the journey. So that's one measurement, is how many people are actually clicking on your listing or your ad. So what's the other things you were going to cover? That's Google Plus you mentioned.
Google Plus and Google Places. We've talked about Google Places on another episode, but I'll keep it brief. So Google Plus and Google Places have merged now. So Google Plus is Google's social network. So having a Google Plus business page is almost critical now. And particularly if you're on a WordPress website or you're doing any blogging, having a personal Google Plus page and using the authorship tags can basically, in a nutshell, your name or your headshot will appear in the search results. So it can actually attract the eye and get more attention and get a higher click-through rate. So I would suggest, we've talked about the Google Places page. We won't go into that. You need to be on Google Places. And I would absolutely suggest having a personal Google Plus profile and integrating the authorship markup with your website. We'll have an example of that, a screenshot for both of us, where the screenshot will explain everything, but you've probably, people have probably seen the little headshot in the search results next to some websites. So that's the Google Plus personal page with the authorship markup integrated.
Awesome. It does make you stand out more. I mean, I've just done a search on a keyword term relating to my business in Perth, and I'm the only one out of the first page that actually has that. The rest just stand out, and it does make you stand out more. And now, eventually, over time, more and more people will catch on to this. So there'll be lots of faces staring at you. But if you can get a bit of an early action stance on this one, then you'll get a bit of a leverage against your competitors. So, good tip.
Easy. Okay, number 5. I guess we've talked about this, I think, as well, but you absolutely need to have some way of measuring the traffic to your website. So I hate to say it, but I have a lot of clients who measure their website performance and things like their AdWords performance by going and Googling their business name or their keywords and seeing whether they appear, which is the absolutely wrong way to be measuring performance.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be doing any of this stuff, again, we've said it before, that you absolutely need Google Analytics and you need to be looking at it. So for me, the best way to manage SEO performance and see how it's going is to look at Google Analytics, look at the pages people are visiting, and look at the traffic specifically coming from organic search. Because even if you're number one, if that's not generating any traffic, then that's a problem. So, what we're after is traffic. The end goal is traffic and getting people to buy or call or whatever it is, not just ranking at a certain position in the search results.
Yeah, it's all about what conversion happens and what is your conversion goal. What are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to get people to fill in a form? Are you trying to get people to call a number? Is it a sale of a product? Is it a lead generation strategy? So you've got to work out what it is you're trying to achieve and then set some goals to what you want to achieve, and then you can measure over a period of weeks, months, years as to how that has progressed. But you have to be able to measure it. If you're not measuring it, you've got nothing to compare how you were to where you
Googling
are.
your own business name is not a way to measure
of course
SEO
not.
performance.
No, all you do is to see if you're there or not, but that tells you absolutely nothing.
Yeah. Also, one thing we haven't said, that SEO isn't for every business. So some businesses just don't work for organic search traffic, or there's nobody searching, or that's not the way their customers work. So I think for many people, there's an assumption that you rank number one in Google for whatever term and you're an instant millionaire. But the thing is, if there's nobody searching for that term, or the people who are searching aren't buyers, then it's a waste of time in the first place. So this comes back to measuring the performance. Just SEO doesn't necessarily work for everyone.
No,
so.
That's right. I mean, you could search on the term "really ugly men in Perth," and I will appear in that number one, but it doesn't make me any money. So let's just be clear on that, okay?
You're taking that one a bit far, mate.
At least I didn't say it was you, mate. So, and you're not in Perth either. So if you don't know the keyword terms you're trying to attract business for, and then just having some stupid keyword term that may bring you in traffic but isn't ever going to convert is a waste of time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look, one of the things I have been suggesting to clients for 11 years, as long as I've been doing this stuff, is everyone wants to do SEO. Quite often people will come to us and they've already been doing SEO and they want to do Google AdWords, and we can take some of their, as long as they've been measuring what's been working properly, we can take some of their keyword terms that have been doing well in SEO, and then we can try and get some more leverage out of those with Google AdWords. But I don't know what your strategy is on this, but I typically, when someone comes to me and they haven't done any SEO or any Google AdWords, is I suggest to establish what keyword terms are actually working very quickly. And because we can really only measure keyword success through AdWords these days and not through SEO, which we'll talk about in a sec, I always suggest that we do an AdWords campaign first, find out very quickly within the space of weeks or a month what keyword terms are actually converting, and then once we've established that pattern and we have a system in place and landing pages or whatever the funnel is that works, we can go, okay, now we know those keyword terms work, we know we're getting conversions for them, now we can really put a focused effort in doing SEO based on those keyword terms because we know that they work. Yep. What do you think of that as a strategy?
Yep, that's exactly the same sort of thing that I do as well. Like, the way I explain it to clients is AdWords is absolutely a quick hit. We can turn it on today and ads will be up and running within the day or within 24 hours. Whereas for some terms, SEO is a long-term play. So it's an absolutely awesome way to determine what's going to work in advance rather than, spending months trying to rank for a term, which, people, also the other thing is SEO is not free. People say, oh, well, I don't want to pay for AdWords, but if you want to rank for a competitive term, you have to pay for SEO. So they have different cost structures, but neither of them are free. But that's the same thing we do as well. It's a good way to get an instant feel for the market. You can turn on AdWords today, and the client, the phone could be ringing this afternoon, and run it for a couple of weeks and see what happens in terms of leads or inquiries to the client. I know for me, we used to rank, I think, number 2 or number 4 for the search term SEO Sydney. Now, that was fantastic. We got a lot of traffic, quite a few phone calls, but the lead quality was rubbish.
Yeah.
You'd think that, these would be good quality leads, but everybody who called was after like a very quick hit, or they were, 7 days away from closing the doors and they needed customers today. So we actually de-optimized the site for that search term because although it got a lot of traffic and it really was a relevant search term to what we were doing, the quality of the leads, the conversions were just terrible. I was burning so much time with these people on the phone that, they weren't prepared to pay any money, or they had $200 to spend and wanted a miracle. So, that for me, that was my experience with that, just really drove home how important those conversions are. Like, traffic is only one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, too true. So it's always a combination of things for your strategy. It's not just one thing. And we always talk about this in the workshops, and we use the image of an old-fashioned style wagon wheel with the hub in the middle, which is your website, and then the spokes that lead in and out to that center hub to the outer wheel are things like Google AdWords, SEO, Facebook, Yellow Pages, whatever you can think of. They're all supporting spokes. So you need to have a balance of what you're doing with your marketing. If you're just running a wheel with one spoke, which could be just AdWords or just SEO or whatever you want to call it, then that's a very unstable wheel that's definitely going to fall over at some stage. So don't have all your eggs in one basket. Try and have them spread across different platforms, different marketing strategies. So if something gets affected, like millions of businesses have been affected when Google decides to change its algorithm and how it deals with traffic, and you could be number 1 or 2 or 3 on Google today for many, many terms, and then with a foul swoop you're disappeared into the abyss, and all the millions of dollars that you were making now just go poof because you had it all based on one thing. So try and be spread across different aspects of marketing and how you get your business and traffic. So
definitely there's no silver bullets or magic bullets. The other thing that really, so I mean, that comes back to control as well, Ed. What you're really talking about there is with the marketing pieces in your business, you really need control over them, and you have some control over SEO, but not total control because you're at Google's wheel or whoever the search engine is. Some of the other pieces of the puzzle, like AdWords, for me, have much more control over. Things like email marketing, you have much more control over. So it makes sense to build your business, like you said, don't have all your eggs in one basket, but think about the control you have over those marketing platforms and those mediums as well. And you see a lot of SEO companies guaranteeing number 1 results and all this sort of stuff. And I had a conversation with a client 2 weeks ago that there was an SEO firm approached him and they were guaranteeing results. And we actually had one of his other websites is number 1 in Google and has been for years. And, it was kind of the case of it's too good to be true. It's like, everyone gets blinded by this, we guarantee number 1 results. But the reality was for his other website, it took a few months and a bit of work, but we got there. The magic bullet thinking is just, it's an absolute trap.
Yeah, no, it's a fallacy. So look, we've only just scratched the scratch of SEO. We've given some very good tips and pointers that we would classify as quick wins that people can take action. And some of the things we're talking about, you could certainly do yourself, or you can speak to someone like Brendan or myself to get help with. But even if you just implement some of these changes from what you're doing now, you could see a dramatic increase in your traffic just from doing that. Because if it's really bad at the moment and you don't have title tags correctly done, meta description tags properly done, you don't have a Google's Plus page, etc., the things we've covered, then just making those small changes can see a big difference. So have a go, see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, mate. Fantastic as usual. Good to talk. Hope everyone got something out of that. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us in the contact details below this particular show.
Cool. Thanks, Ed.
No worries. We'll speak to you next time, mate.
Cheers, mate. See ya.
See you guys. Bye. You've been listening to Business Marketing Show. You can find us at businessmarketingshow.com or on iTunes. Just look for Business Marketing Show.